Hey friends, today I'll share with you one of the most important and high leverage exercises that I do each year, and that is the compounding overview. This is part of my annual review, and the idea is that with this compounding exercise, you look into compound interest, which is this incredibly powerful force in finance, into other areas of your personal life, be it in your relationships, your career, your skill set, and so on. What I have done is that I have just shared my newsletter just a couple of weeks ago where I explain in depth about this exercise and give a lot of examples from my personal life on some of the cases as well, where you can see how to put this in action and how you can use it to steer yourself to more success and to more long-term success as well. What I'll do now is that I'll just read through my newsletter, which as I say, I have just shared to over 2,400 people or so. And for those of you who don't know, if you want to hear more about this newsletter, you can find the links down in the video description. With that, let's go. Okay, so this is the latest version of the Compass, sent in late November to 2,382 people. Got good feedback, so I'm happy to share this with you. Main 2 points were compounding, as I just said before, and a bit of travel. We'll leave travel to the end. Skipping the intro. Now, compound interest everywhere. And start with a quote where I think is spot on, which says that play, iterate games, all the returns in life, whether in wealth, relationships, knowledge, come from compound interest. And this comes from Naval Ravikant, this angel investor, smart guy. And for those of you who don't know about compound interest, the idea of compound interest is famous in finance. It's the idea that you can turn money into more money. And if you have a lot of money, you can turn that more money into a lot more money. So it really stacks up pretty fast. And the idea, yes, you can turn 100K into 500K by sticking to the investment over the long term and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. This is how wealthy people become even more wealthy. And the key thing here is that a lot of people just narrow their focus on compound interest just to money, but you can look into compound interest in a lot more areas as well. So, for example, in your personal life, as I have just said. And as Naval points out, Naval, again, a very successful guy, points out one of the keys to success in life is to focus on areas, games call them, where you can get compounding effects. Because you can't get compounding everywhere. There's certain places where you can compound and certain places you can't compound. You just need to be aware of where you are compounding and focus on that. And I take this myself really seriously. I continuously ask myself, is this something I can compound in? Is this something I can't compound in? And use this exercise to debate with myself whether an activity I'm going to be doing is worth focusing or not. So I take challenges where I compound and mostly shy away of things where I can't. Just a note on consistency. So to unleash compound interest, you just need to be consistent over the long term. So you need to be sticking with something for a while. And consistency is everything. It's the bedrock of everything. It's the only way you can compound things, is that you need to just show up and never give up, right? So whatever that means, every week, every month, every year, right? So, and I think if there's one thing that I'm good at myself, and try to be humble here, but one thing that I think I have been pretty good at the last many years is that I can be very consistent. Not on everything, I'm not going to be consistent on everything, but now I have been, in a lot of my key areas in my life, I have been consistent enough that I can start seeing the results of compound interest. And I'm going to show that in a second. And I have a little graph here just to see, right? Because compound interest, at the beginning, it might be a bit small because your capital or your wealth, and that can be the people that you know and the people you have strong relationships with, or the level of skill set that you have and so on. It gets better with each year, but it does really get powerful when you're at, let's say, a high level of wealth or high level of relationships or high level of whatever, right? So the more you have been at it, the steeper the curve goes. And I just wanted to say as well is that I'm not a consistent person. Like, I'm not the type of person who would say like I'm super productive. I'm like, that's not natural me. I have always been a lazy guy deep inside, but like I love sleeping and reading books, doing nothing and so on. And I just use systems to get me to do stuff. Otherwise, it just doesn't work for me. And I have explained that in one of the videos. I'll link it over here. With that, let's get into the compounding exercise and stop rambling, Mario, please. So, as I said, you can use compounding beyond money. So, and this is just a quick intro. This is part of the annual review exercise I do each year, and I have made a video explaining the annual review, just also linked over here. And the idea is that I'm going to be doing a workshop, inviting you guys in late December, so we can go through this exercise together. There's going to be a link down in the video description for those of you who are interested. There's going to be a live workshop via Zoom, and I believe it's going to be incredibly helpful. But with that, let's go. Where could you compound? There's no special order on the areas I'm going to go, but the idea is I'm going to show you the areas, I'm going to give you a bit of insight on that, and then give you some of my personal examples. So, career. the more focus and experience you have in a specific area, usually the more skilled you are in that specific area, the more you will be recognized in the market. So via a salary, or if you're a freelancer, via your rates and so on. So years of experience are a thing, of course. And of course, a few years of experience in a Google or Tesla might be a lot more worth than you spent like 10 years in a company doing the same repetitive work, or where you have not been really pushing yourself to the limit. But the idea is that yes, the more experience you have on something, and also the more credentials, even though that varies between career to career, the more you can get like recognized in the market for. And my view is that it's critical to get into your 30s with at least a strong experience in one or two things. So it doesn't mean that, of course, if you have been coding since you are like 17 and like by the time you're 30, you have been always at it and always improving, you're going to be, of course, really well off. But most people, like including myself, we didn't really get our career on track until a while, right? But then it's critical that when you're approaching 30, you already know what you're going to be doing at, and at least you can always change career, as I put here. But at the same time, you should always be thinking, okay, I'm already getting to the point that I need to have something to show, something where I can compound. And that's super critical as well. And as I put here, like I had a messy career until I was 27. So I had a successful but not scalable online business. And I made a video explaining that as well. I had an all over the place corporate hopping after that. I had a failed startup. I went to work in corporate procurement after that in Carlsberg. Not in a remarkable job, you could say, even was a bit more junior than I should have, but like, okay, that's what you had to do. And only now, after so many years, I can say my career is getting to the point that, hey, okay, I'm getting recognized and I'm getting to the seniority and level that I wanted to do, but that took a really long time. And during this time, I was tempted to change tracks. I like so much stuff. I like absolutely everything. I could really like have 48 hours in just one day to learn stuff and to do stuff. But it was just really hard. And then I just need to focus on something. And it was a conscious decision for myself to say, okay, I'm going to stick to a career I'm doing now at the moment. And then maybe in a few years down the line, when I already get the level of seniority that I have, I can start looking into other commercial roles, for example, or even have a different type of career hub. But already have, let's say, whoever employs me for whatever now will have a guy who really has a lot of experience negotiating big contracts, has a lot of experience managing international projects with a lot of people, right? And that is a lot of these skills, and it will be the same with all of your jobs, are very transferable. And it's very critical that you have built those stuff because that compounds. So a lot about myself on that, so sorry for that. And then we have compounding your side hustle. A lot of people don't have a side hustle, so like no problem on that. But from my side, I think this is a really good example of doing something for a lot of time and not getting it recognized. And then finally, after 12 years or whatever, doing something, the market is saying, hey, okay, maybe this guy is not that bad. So that's my case, right? So I have been writing online since 2009. So that's a long time. We're approaching to 2022 now. So I have made good money in my first 2 years. I think it was completely by luck, let's be honest. And then bombed for 7 years straight after that. So I've been writing online, doing a lot of online stuff, get zero money, zero recognition for super long. But only now, after restarting my newsletter in 2015 and like writing now for 44 times, even though it's not monthly, it's still 44 times is a lot of times. You can see that I'm building a little audience here and people that find that my content is getting useful because again, I have been practicing this for so long, honestly, like 2009. It's a long time. So this compounded in a few specific ways. So for example, when I'm talking about writing specifically here, people have been reading my email sometimes for 6 or more years because I even had old blogs before this newsletter. And this comes with a lot of relationships and trust with my readers. It's not the same if I get a lot of new readers now. Hopefully that a lot of you guys who are new and find my content now find it useful. But at least now, there are some people that have been getting me in the inbox for so many years, right? So that builds a lot of trust normally, assuming that my content keeps being good. And also gives me a backlog of content. So if you, for example, only find about my work now and so on, you have 44 issues of my newsletter you can go through, or a lot of YouTube videos also you can go through. So that's something we're working on. And then I put it as a little brag here, but I write really fast. I mean, these newsletters that are super long and so on, once I have a little plan in my head, and I can be actually quite good at that as well, I can write a newsletter like this long in just a few hours. And I have transferred this skill, this thing that has compounded over so many years of doing this, into a lot of other areas of my life. So for example, if I need to write a proposal for work, I can also do that really fast, a lot faster than a lot of other people. Emails and so on, I can write 25 emails in 10 minutes or something like that. So that really helps, not just typing fast, but actually thinking and writing on the page a lot faster as well. And after a decade of work, so after a lot of just going at it without getting any money and so on, now I make some money online. Not a lot, of course. It's like even less than 10% of what I earn in my job, right? But it's still something, and keeps the lights on, helps me buy a camera so I can make better YouTube videos and so on. So that's fun, and hopefully we'll keep growing. But I think, like as I said, like going back to this graph, maybe my online business is starting, it was like here for so long, and now we're approaching here, and if I keep at it, it's gonna be here, and then like you never know if I keep doing good work, how it's gonna go. But the key, as I say, is consistency. I have been doing this for so many years, and even in the good times and the bad times. And now even for this pace, I want to do the YouTube stuff a bit more. So I'm trying to publish YouTube videos weekly. I have not missed a week for a long time. So again, going back to consistency. Could happen again. I mean, like I'm a father and so on. So there's a lot of things that could go off, but I'm trying my best to keep at it as well. And I can see like how much would have been good for myself to just be doing this years before. Because like I see the guys who have been doing YouTube channels similar to mine for now 3-4 years, they have a much bigger audience, and then it compounds as well. So it's good to start early, but if you can't start now, because I'm playing the long game. In my case, like I'm not doing this just for 1 year and test how it goes. I'm doing at least 100 videos. So I'm probably until the end of next year, and then by then, hopefully I have enough compounding to say, okay, I can keep doing this, and it's even getting easier and so on. All right, so that's a lot of me stuff. So let's go now to other topics, which are, for example, compounding on health and fitness. So health is the base for everything. So it's the most important area to compound. In a way, I should have started with this one, right? But let's move it aside. And if you start, the idea for this is that if you start trying to get healthy or eat healthy, or like not have bad weight or work out and so on in your 30s, you will be too late. I wouldn't say if you start in your mid-20s, you may also be too late as well. If you start in your 40s and 50s, you're better than not starting at all, but it's very important that you do it as soon as possible. Because the moment you keep your healthy body, mind and spirit, it will take you a long way. So you have more energy, you can do more stuff, you will be able to go for longer as well, because eventually we all get old. It's pretty shitty, you know, and then the more you prepare for it in advance, the better you'll be. So, and again, as I put here, I'm sorry I'm pounding over 30s here, but again, like you need to really get your act together if you want to start compounding, and you have not done it by the time you get 30 or even more. So what you need to compound, I'll post a link to Ali's article on this, but the key things, this is not rocket science. People sell millions of books and courses on this, but the reality is that if you want to keep a healthy body, just have a good diet. So avoid inflammatory food, so sugar, heavily processed food, refined carbs, eat more vegetables, nuts, fish. So nothing too revolutionary, just eat well, right? So you know what it means here, right? So exercise, so do cardio, strength and training every week. So go for walks, do lift weights, or do like very exercises that make you be strong. Like, I don't know, in my case, to lift almost 15 kilo baby all the time, that also helps as well. And go running, do bicycle and so on, but just move your body, super important as well. Sleep, get your 7, 8, 9 hours a night. I'm trying to sleep between 8 and 9 hours as much as I can as well, and prioritize that almost over everything, because it also compounds. If you have been sleeping bad for months and so on, then it impacts your performance across the board. And otherwise, like meditate, be outdoors. Like actually, even now in winter, it's pretty dark in Denmark and so on. Just go to the forest, go to the park, and just that you could be social, meet people, avoid unnecessary stress. And when I said about compound, and then of course the bad things don't do, like don't smoke, don't go overboard with alcohol, don't even be online all the time. I made a video of the 5 things that I don't do, and that's definitely it as well. And here, it's not that the compounding of this, I think the critical part of health as well is that the compounding will not be in the, of course you will be, the more you do these things, the better your body will be, and the more your body will be and your health will be, the more you can do, as I said. But the compounding here, the behavioral part that is hard, is for yourself to get yourself to do these things. Because of course it's easier said than done, right? It's easy to say, yeah, eat well, exercise well when you have a lot of really nice food around, and it's hard to drag yourself to the gym when it's like minus 20 outside. I don't know. So in my case, like back in 2011, I said right here, 2011, 2012, I had to drag myself to the gym. I hated to go to the gym. I still don't like it personally, right? But it's just, now I have been doing it for so long that it's just second nature to me. There's like no resistance. I just go and I don't need to think too much about it. In the early days, if I would not go to the gym because I went on a long trip or I got sick or something, it was really hard to set up the habit again. And now this is a non-issue. And it's the same for example, meditating. I'm like, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. It's like, oh, I didn't meditate today. No, okay, let's do it. I have systems around it and so on. And this is critical as well. I mean, of course, you can check my book on this, but otherwise, the Atomic Habits book nails it exactly. So we went into career, we went to side business, we went to health, but there are more areas we can compound, right? So compounding money. So been talking that we look in compounding your money, but of course, just look in your own money as well, right? So money, after all, is the original compounder as well, right? So if you started saving, I remember guys, when I was like a lot younger, I was traveling the world a lot, right? There were people that were like starting saving baking when they were 21, 22, when they had investments and so on. I just can't imagine how much money they must have now, right? So I didn't start investing that soon. I wish I did, but I didn't. I was spending all my money traveling and like just saving like 10%, but the 10% of a very low salary or very little thing is not a lot. But at least in my case, it was compounding the behavior, as I said, right? I never really saved a lot of money in those early years, but at least I was setting myself to at least save a little bit. And now, fast forward now that I'm a bit older and make more money as well and can invest more. Pandemic doesn't let me travel too much, so I can also invest more. Got more wealth, and then the more wealth you have now, for example, now we're in this economy that everything is absolute bubble. Everything is going up like 25%, 30%, like from stocks to cryptocurrencies to housing and so on. If you have assets, now you're making a killing, and the more assets you have, the more killing you'll be making, right? So again, you can see compounding in action very clearly. And then a few more. Compounding family and friendships. So your network and relationships also compound, and the more you build, develop, and nurture your network, the more ideas and opportunities you will have coming your way, especially if people like you, right? So, and this is not about going to conferences or events, but about being deliberate in making connections with people you have shared interests and goals. And I think if there's one thing I always curse myself for not doing more, I know it's important, I have been knowing it's important for like 10 years and so on, is that I don't even really put enough effort on this. The people I have seen that are more successful, they go out of their way to meet interesting people and to build a relationship with them. And when you have a relationship with people before, for example, they become famous, or before they have their really big break and so on, you can do really well. And I even like on this, I didn't understand it, but I'm just thinking about it here out loud as well, is that there was I read this book called The Startup of You, which is a fantastic book. It's not so popular anymore now, but I think it's fantastic, right? And the author was basically saying that he even had an interesting people fund. So basically he had a bunch of money he would save himself to go and like even travel to meet people he wanted to meet, or spend whatever it takes to spend time with these people that he wanted to meet. And if you do this for like 10 years straight, and you're an interested person who people would respect, and you do good work and so on, you basically supercharge your career big time. I need to start doing more than that. And this is, as I say, like my biggest failure. But if you have done it or you're thinking about it, that's absolutely critical. A few more. Compounding on learning. As I said, it takes 10,000 hours to master something. That's a lot of practice. But it also means that if you're consistently high level, you can get world-class results, right? So if you're consistently practicing and so on, you can get really well. And I give 2 examples from myself on this. So I only took my first guitar class this year. I was too cheap to pay for a teacher in Denmark until then. Cursed myself for that, very bad, but because I had a guitar for so long but never really played. And I learned some chords, I had to learn through YouTube and so on, but it's never the same as just having a teacher. And okay, I'll keep at it for, as I say, I'm consistent, so maybe in 5 years I'll be good. But I don't know, in the meantime, it's like the case of anti-compounding, right? You're thinking like, I was too cheap, I didn't want to spend money on this, and I had a guitar and so on, and I always wanted to play some songs. I don't want to be an expert, I don't really care, but like at least be good enough. And like 5 years is a long time, but if you're 20 and you then get to 25 being good, or if you're 25 and you do it by 30, that's great. In my case, let's see, I mean, maybe I'll be 40 by the time I actually can play the guitar, but there we go. And then being a bit strategic, I love languages. It took me so long to learn Danish. I'm gonna make a video about it. I made a huge guide you can also find online, but I'm gonna make that into a video as well. But then learning Danish was so hard for me after I was really good in German, I was good in Japanese, I was good in a lot of different languages. It just got me off the rails big time. And now I want to get back into learning other languages, but it's a long-term project, right? If you want to learn something well, as I can see, even though you have the best approach possible, there's no this fluent difference and so on. That's BS. You don't really get like that, right? So you can of course be able to babble a little bit and so on, but if you want to really learn something and be good at it, it takes a lot of effort, right? In my case, I decided, okay, next language I'll tackle will be again Japanese, and the reason for this is that not only I'm passionate about everything Japan and so on, is that I have studied Japanese for now since I was 17 and so on, so like more than half of my life even, I would say, I have been studying Japanese. And if you ask me something in Japanese now, I might not be able to take it, but like, you remember somewhere here, right? I learned all the kanjis back in the day, which are the symbols. I learned a lot of vocabulary. I passed really tough exams. And I think that if I wanted to pick something up, I wouldn't say I would be really compounding my Japanese, but I would be, instead of starting from here, I would start from here. And that makes a lot of things to go a lot smoother as well. So again, 2 examples of compounding learning, that different approaches as well. But I think like the Japanese case, the older you get at something, like in my case, I'm 35 now, right? And yes, I can still take, I read about, for example, Ben Gurion, which is this Israeli, one of the founders of Israel, a very important person in Israel. He learned ancient Greek in his like 70s or 80s because he wanted to learn Plato, right? So, or to read Plato in the original. Cool, you can still do that, of course, right? But then like if you want to really do a lot of stuff as well, the earlier you do and the things you can put back from your past, the better as well. Especially when you're passionate about it. I'm not so passionate about German anymore, so that's why I'm not really learning German again, but I still love everything in Japan. So anyway, with that, so the last one, compounding here, and this is kind of a personal stuff, but you can also think what are the personal things you're compounding yourself as well, is travel. So when I set myself to visit 100 countries, I had 2 approaches open, right? I would just travel for 6 months, for a year, and like I basically save up and then like just go crazy, or visit 10 new places each year and so on. And I went this slow way. I had a few crazy years. For those of you who don't know, I have been to 134 countries at the moment I'm recording this video. And I did 16 countries in 2014, 18 in 2015, so it's a lot of countries, but beyond that it was mostly like 10, 11, 12 new countries each year. And fast forward 10 years and so on, I got to 100 countries and now to 130 countries, so it was mostly slow and steady. So again, going back to being consistent and playing the long term, I won't say like, it's not that it really compounds, but the idea is that if you do things slowly and steady, 10 years is a long time and you can do a lot of stuff. Actually, last one here. And I think this is super important. I think if there's one thing I compound, and this is getting better each year and driving me to even better performance each year, is that I compound my systems and ops, as I call it, like all these structures I put in my life to get me to do the things I said I want to do. And I credit, I think, like if there's one thing I have done well over the last way too many years, is this. And that is, if there's one thing I want to credit myself for doing well over the last 10 years or so, is this. And specifically, morning routine. So I have been doing a morning routine in one way or the other for now, I said, more than 10 years straight. And the idea is that in this morning routine, for many years, I was working out, meditating, drinking water, doing a journal, doing my affirmations, you name it, all the things that were like, I'm not checking internet, not checking emails and so on. I was just focusing on myself. This got a bit sidetracked when I became a father, but even still now, in a different way, I still have a morning routine, even a bit shorter. Before it used to be like almost 2 hours, a bit shorter now, but make sure I start my day always in the best way possible, and that leads me normally to have a good day overall because I started it well. And this is absolutely critical. There's of course a lot of things on morning routines online, but at least the fact that I have been doing this for so long, super important. Then tracking my habits. I have made a video where I explain this system I used to track my habits. It's called Lights by a guy called Sebastian Marshall, invented it. I think it's absolutely genius. This helped me drive the performance on all the things I say I want to do. Because when it comes to being consistent, as I said, I'm not a natural on this. I'm normally a lazy person, but I have this way of tracking my stuff. And this helps me a lot to be like, okay, have I done the things I said I wanted to do? And each day, like checking that, give myself a score. And even though I don't do anything actionable based on that score, at least I can shame myself when I have let's say a low score on this, and give a kudos to myself when the score is high, meaning that I have done all the things I said I wanted to do, or I wanted to do to live the best life. Because it's hard, I don't know, honestly, otherwise. And then 2 more things, working in focus. So, and this is critical as well. I learned, and I think it's absolutely critical as well, that when you do something, you work fully immersed on that specific thing and you don't have any distractions and so on. And in the same way, when you're resting, you don't work, right? So I can make a complete course about this, right? But the idea is that, yeah, you are fully immersed or you're fully resting, not the gray zone in between, right? So it's not that you're watching TV and doing emails. It doesn't really work. You're not doing relaxation or watching TV, and you're also not doing very good emails. So it's better to just side by side. And this is the way I have managed, for example, by working in focus and being consistent at it and being good at it and having systems and ways to do this, that I have managed myself to produce like a good career for myself, a side gig, and all these things, as I said, because I just managed in a few hours to squeeze the best performance possible. And the way you do that performance is like this. Last one, I have been reading mostly on my iPad since 2014. I don't think it's better than physical books and so on in many ways, but it's just very convenient. And then I have been casually highlighting passages from the things. For example, when I read a book, I say, oh, this is interesting, and I just highlighted it and never did read anything out of it until last year. And early this year, when I basically discovered a service called Richwise, which basically like puts everything together from all these highlights you have done from different books, resurface it, and then you can make connections between the different books. And now I use it, for example, for creating content. When I think about, for example, like I need a quote for this, or I need something to include in my newsletter for whatever, it just all comes. It's really good. Okay, those are the main areas on compounding, and this compounding exercise is something that is a good reality check you can do for yourself to know, okay, where you're standing in all these different areas, and are the projects you'll be doing over the next year or the initiatives you'll be involved in good enough and will be helping you drive this or not. So absolutely critical on that. One more thing, as I mentioned before, is that I have this annual review workshop coming up. This will be now in late December, so the moment you see this video is going to be very soon. And make sure you check the link below, because if you find this type of exercises or this type of thinking for yourself or this kind of personal check-ins interesting, this workshop will do this exercise, but like at least 10 more exercises to look back into the year, to look into the future. And if there's one thing I credit myself with all the success, you could call it, from my side, from like buying the house and like getting my books in place and like launching my books, to starting this YouTube channel and like getting in my career, moving to Denmark, all this type of stuff, all the things I learned, all credit to this exercise of the annual review. And I have been studying and developing this exercise now for over 10 years, and I think I'm getting to the point that I really nailed the structure. And after so long, I'm happy to actually share it with you as well, so you can do your own review. And when it comes to 2021 or 2022, sorry, you are really well prepared for it, and you can say, okay, how I plan to make the best year of my life out of 2022. Last, for those of you who care, yes, I was in Saudi Arabia, and that's country number 134. This is a photo of Alula, which is this little village in the north of the country, which the new crown prince wants to basically build into a huge tourist destination. I say it was pretty cool. It's the same culture as Petra, the Nabateans. It was the second biggest place for the Nabateans after Petra. And yep, looks really cool. It was really interesting, and it was good to go to a place that is basically, as I put here, like Saudi Arabia was almost impossible to visit as a tourist, especially for non-Muslims, until just a couple of years ago. And now they're basically opening up, and it's not so common. Many people don't know about it. So it's one of those off the beaten track places that looks spectacular. And if you go now, maybe in 5-10 years, you're not gonna have the same experience of me just, for example, just walking in this place and like 2 people, like it's really cool. And it was also nice to visit something new as well, a bit adventurous, like for example getting a COVID test, and there was a lot of crazy stuff going on there, but it was nice. People were super friendly, and even like my preconception of Saudi Arabia being this very Puritan place where women are all with burqa, like you need to be super careful of going here and there. On the contrary, people were super hospitable, super nice, looked a lot more liberal than we were expecting in many ways. A lot of women working. My wife was surprised as well. We took with my wife and son even like to Saudi Arabia, which was like a bit of a interesting potentiality, but like it actually worked out very well. And if all goes good, Omicron aside and all this stuff, we have a lot of really good, exciting trips coming up for early 22. Maybe something involving these beautiful turtles, we'll see, but more on that hopefully when things get confirmed and I'm on the road finally. With that, if you made it to the end of the video, and if you're one of the 1 or 2 people who actually watched this whole thing, kudos to you, thanks so much. If you are not signed up to this newsletter, again, you can follow the link down in the video description. This is where you will get signed up. And this is a newsletter I get, as I said, like once a month or so. A bit, sometimes this year I have been once every 2 months. So as you can see, it's very long. So I only write this when I have something interesting to share, when I have something to say, okay, I want to share this with my audience. Otherwise I don't. So it's always quality stuff. With that, yeah, check the newsletter. And next up, check also this annual review workshop. I'm gonna make the video link over here where you can go and hear more about the annual review, and then how you can sign up and how we can help you as well. All right, thank you, and see you next time.